Hey guys, I'm Vivian Reed and welcome to my channel. Now, you know as I always say, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like and please say nice things. We like nice comments, don't we? Okay, now today I have a very special guest. We're going to have a conversation with this man who has indeed worn a lot of hats and he's worn each of them quite well. He is a singer, an actor, a dancer, a writer, a producer, a comedian, and the list goes on and on and on. And you know what? He's also the host of the very popular cast party at Birdland. So I welcome Mr. Jim Caruso. How you doing, Jim?
Ian Reed, I'm so glad to be here with you.
Ooh, did you just sing my name, honey? Do it again. Sing it again.
Will everybody do it at home? Vivian Reed, I love you, Vivian Reed.
Oh, that's fabulous. Now, listen, Jim, let's just jump right into it. When you go see a show, whether it's nightclub or maybe it's a theater piece, a musical or a play, what are those key ingredients that you look for that you say, you know what? They have something. They have touched me. What is it about them that has touched you in their performance?
I've made most of my living in nightclub work, as you know. I've done, but I see a lot of theater. That's my jam, theater and nightclubs. I would have to say, when somebody can stand on a stage, whether it's in a theater, in a nightclub, in a cabaret, and connect, whether they're connecting with me as an audience or connecting with each other on stage, another actor on stage, man, it's palpable and so powerful.
Yes.
And it's something, as much as we all try, we go to school, we have our voice lessons, we have our dance lessons. It's something that it's like an indescribable thing that I don't know if you can learn. I don't know if you can teach, but man, if you have it, you have it, and the audience knows the second you walk on stage.
Yes. And you say that whether a person has it or not, but what can help them get close to that is that you have to be so knowledgeable about your material. That
Absolutely.
material has got to have meaning for you. That song has got to have meaning for you. The dialogue, or if it's a monologue, has got to have meaning for you. Because I find, Jim, that when you become one with that material, when you
It's
walk on the
everything.
stage, it is everything. Now let's
Well,
talk about the. No, go
but
ahead.
that's
What were you going
being
to say?
prepared. And
Yes.
so not only do you have to have this indescribable something, but you better be prepared. You better have done your lessons and worked with your teachers and read every book possible and studied your script or studied your lyrics.
Oh,
And to me, one of the most important things is know your history.
yes.
You guys are so lucky now because you have YouTube. You can look at any performance, any performer. I was reading books and I was watching the Tonys every year, but I didn't get to really study the greats as easily as you can do it now.
Yes,
And
that's
that's
true.
key. Look at who came before you.
Because there's no harm in going watching other performers because you can see what they do that works, that touches you. Okay, why are they touching me? What is it about their performance that I feel? And then you can also look at performance and see what doesn't work.
Oh,
Because it's not like every performer that hits the stage is doing it all correctly. Because there are
no.
things that performers that you see that just, like for instance, a big pet peeve with me, Jim, Lord have mercy, Woo!
Late.
Lord, I feel like I'm getting ready to shout, Jim. Honey, a big pet peeve with me is in a nightclub. When I see a performer take the mic off the stand, they're not going to use it for the next, say, they're not going to use the stand for the next 3 or 4 songs. Yet they leave the stand right there in the middle of the stage. Oh
Me
my
too. I
God.
hate that.
Ooh,
Oh
ooh.
no, we could talk about pet peeves all day because first of all, I book a lot of the performers at Birdland, a lot of Broadway performers who
Yes.
are genius at what they do on Broadway, but all of a sudden they're left on stage alone to their own devices and
Devices.
they stand there with their eyes closed, snapping their fingers. They don't know what to do. So things like that are
Mm-hmm.
pet peeves, absolutely. And we all have them. I was talking to Marilyn May the other night, who is 94 years old,
94 years old. God bless her.
funnier than anybody, sings better than
Mm-hmm.
anybody. I mean, she's just an extraordinary human. She
Extraordinary.
has a pet peeve: don't sit down. Now, I don't have that pet peeve. Don't sit on a stool. I'm okay with somebody sitting on a stool.
Yeah, I am too.
She hates that, and she hates people drinking out of
Out of the
water
bottle.
bottles. That stuff drives her crazy. I love hearing that stuff
But
because
you know,
now I'll never look at somebody drinking out of a water bottle and not think of Marilyn Manson.
but you know what she doesn't do that I applaud her for? I don't do that. I do not understand people, performers getting on the stage with a stand and their music.
Oh,
And I'm talking about younger performers. You're
I
not at
know,
the age of Marilyn May. I have yet to see Marilyn May get on the stage with a
I
music
know,
stand with her lyrics. I have yet, and she's 94. I've
I
never
know,
seen it.
I know. I mean, to me, I used to watch Rosemary Clooney,
Mm-hmm.
and toward the end of her life and career, she would have a stand there with lyrics. And I thought to myself, if this is the only way I can see Rosemary Clooney live, if she needs
That's
the
different.
comfort of that,
Yes.
I'll take it. But if
Yes.
you're 23 and you don't know the words to Taylor the Latte Boy, then you need to rethink.
Yeah, you need to rethink this business because that's telling me that you don't even care enough for your audience who have paid to come
Absolutely.
see you and you did not take the time out to sit down and memorize your lyrics to every song in
Yeah.
your show. There's a problem when you're in your 20s, 30s, and even 40s. Now, later on, you get up in life and maybe your memory's starting to go. I get it and I understand that. Okay, Jim, but back to this microphone thing.
Got rid of that. Yes.
You gotta listen, guys listening, and I think I have a I ain't no think I have a video on microphone technique. Please, if you know that you are not going to use that stand for the next 3, 4, 5 songs, don't leave it in front of you because you know why? That microphone stand will be upstaging you.
That's right.
People will not only be looking at you, but they'll be looking at that stand too. Right? Isn't that right, Jim?
And Vivian, don't you think every shred of what you do on stage, we're staring at as an audience? If you're
Yep.
picking your nail and you think, oh, it's all the way down there, nobody's looking at that. That's all we can look at. If I saw a girl, was one of my favorite things. A friend of mine made her Carnegie Hall debut. Now that's a big deal. She had the most beautiful dress. She had had hair and makeup. She looked like a movie star. She sang like a bird. The band was incredible. And she did something that I'll never forget. When she bowed, and as she was down there, she saw some lint on her beautiful black dress,
Oh,
and she picked the lint off while she was in the middle of the bow.
oh
I
no.
almost got hysterical, and I walked backstage to give her a big hug, and she said, "I picked lint. What was I thinking?" It ruined her night. So
Yeah,
you
it
just
ruined her
have
night.
to
Yeah.
know everything you do. If you have funny things with your feet, if you now by the way, some of those things can be endearing
Yeah.
and part of your character. Okay, but you need to know that it's going on and you need to really take a hard look at every shred of what's going on, from your hair to the lint to the
Yep.
where the mic stand is to the stool.
And
It
nine times out of ten, probably the audience members didn't even see the piece of lint
Oh,
on her gown,
of course not.
but she
She,
brought attention to it.
no, it's all we can think about.
Now, for those of you watching, in theater, we don't break the fourth wall, meaning we do not look at the audience unless that particular piece calls for it. For instance, like Five Guys Named Mo and Smokey Joe's Cafe and musicals of that ilk. In nightclub, you better break that fourth wall. If you think that you can get out on that stage and just stare off into space
Oh,
somewhere, not paying any attention that there are people sitting watching you who they want to be engaged. They want you to engage them. If you think you can do your whole show like that, I will guarantee you it's not going to be successful.
yeah, I agree. You go to a nightclub. I'll say this. I go to a nightclub so that I can connect with a performer that I'm interested in.
Yes.
And I want to get to know that performer. And I don't want you talking like there's some balcony. Like there's nothing back there. It's
Yeah.
just us. I mean, that's a good phrase for what cabaret is. It's just us.
It's
And
just
I
us.
want to hear your stories, and I want you to talk to me, and I want you to look in my face, and I will give so much back to you if you do that. You'll be so delighted with what you get back. That's the whole point,
Well,
is
Jim,
give and
go ahead.
take.
It's a give and take. And Jim, you and I are very much a lot alike on the stage, as there are many other performers like us as well. When I watch you, and people have said when they watch me, it is like I am watching you talking to me in your living room. Or people say, Vivian, it's like you're talking to me and we're just one to one in your living room.
Right.
That's because now Bob Cuccioli said to me, well, Vivian, that may be a gift that you have. Okay, granted, not everyone could do this, but you're very good, Jim, at speaking and talking extemporaneously, and so am I. But what I am against, and I see this happen more often than not, when I go see performers who have memorized, now I'm talking nightclubs now. I'm talking nightclubs, not theater, because your job is to memorize that dialogue and
Of
then
course.
make. But in nightclubs, when you have, maybe someone has written your show, they've written all your patter, and you have sat down and memorized every word exactly like it's written. Now, God bless you if you can deliver it and still make it, seem like conversation. But every time I've seen someone do that, Bob, you get pregnant pauses in during their show because why? They have forgotten a word and they're
Right.
trying to think of what comes next. So I don't ascribe to that. I think you should have a gist of what that pattern is, especially if someone has written it for you. Now I write all of my stuff, but if someone has written it for you and it's written to set up each of your songs or whatever, you should have a gist of what that pattern is, and then put it into your words comfortably
Yes.
that you'll be able to, because you got to stick with the gist of what it is because it's setting up your song. But
It's
I
important.
think
It's important stuff.
it's important, but when you literally try to memorize every
No.
single word as it is written, and nerves set in, and usually when nerves set in, the memory kind of goes. You're going to find yourself in trouble. Now, not all people get in trouble, but I've seen a lot. What about you, Jim?
Absolutely. I mean, I've directed two club acts in my life. Uh, Linda Lavin, an
Oh, yes.
incredible Broadway and television actress, and Stephanie J. Block, who I know a lot of your students probably love. Stephanie won the Tony, I guess, 2 years ago now for The Cher Show.
Mm-hmm.
She is one of my best friends, and she said, I want to try this. You have so much fun doing this. I want to try it. So I directed her act and really helped her shape an act She we chose the music together, but it was very much her taste, of course. Billy Stritch was at the piano,
Oh, yes.
and we wrote a script because she's a theater actress. And she
Mm-hmm.
said, I want to have a script. And I said, perfect. Learn the script word for word, then throw it away.
Mm.
Then never think about it again.
Yeah.
Because I want fun. I want
Yes.
a feeling that you are making this up for the first time. I want
Mm-hmm.
you searching for words. I want what's it called? I want that because that's how life is.
Yes.
You don't just talk in run-on sentences and perfect grammar, and uh, life is not perfection. So she did just that. She memorized it like the great actress that she is,
Yes.
and then she got on stage and forgot it. And she did one song out of order, and it was
Oh,
nobody cares.
nobody
It's
cares.
it was such fun. And afterwards, she came up to me with big tears in her eyes, and she said, "I loved it. I love what you get to do." She got it.
Yes. You know, I tell students or people asking me, well, how should I gauge my career? I believe that if theater interests you, I think you should get into that. I think you should go on as many auditions as you can, especially if you're coming out of college, you're not equity, you don't have your card, but there are still things that you can do. You can go to Backstage, Playbill. They have a lot of calls for non-union stuff because every time you get on the stage, I think it adds to your experience. So by the time you do get your equity card and you get that big show, you're near ready. You've been on the stage, you have a sense of what that is. But I also tell people theater is not the only that's not the only thing in show business. You have nightclubs, you have so many other parts that you can do that if one thing is not working, you can do something else. Like for instance,
Absolutely.
you've been in the recording studio, and so have I. You have CDs and stuff. I mean, I think what gives one longevity is when they have a knowledge of how it all works.
Yes. And one thing informs the other,
Yes.
informs the other, informs the other.
Yes.
I didn't know as an actor what, I mean, I hated auditions. Nobody loves auditions, but I never really got what was happening on the other side of the table
Mm-hmm.
until I was part of a show that was on Broadway. I wasn't in it. It was called Manelli on Manelli. It
Oh,
was at the Palace
yes.
Theater about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the other side of the table with the director, with one of the composers, with Liza Minnelli, who was obviously the star of the show, and the casting director. And there's me sitting there. What I didn't know was the people behind the table want you to be as good as you want to be.
That's it.
Because then their job's over. If you're
Yes.
perfect for them, they can't wait for you to be good. I always
Yes.
thought they were the enemy somehow. That was a huge learning experience for me that I'll never forget. And like
I
you're saying, being in the studio, incredibly important learning experience. Doing PR, knowing how to write a press release.
Yeah, because you might have to do it for yourself.
Because if you have a cabaret act, you need to write your own press
Yep,
release because
it's
usually
true.
nobody else will do it.
And not only that, Jim, you should know about the lights. You should know about the sound. You should know what EQ. What is my EQ? What
Yes,
EQ works best for my voice? If you don't have that kind of knowledge, then find a sound person. Pay him a few bucks, and if he has a at home studio, go to his
yes,
studio. I mean,
yes,
that's how I found out. I mean, I know a lot about sound today, but it happened. One of my close friends was a sound engineer, and he asked me one day. He says, let's see what works best for your sound. Tell me when you start to like it. And I had a board and everything in there, and in my second room there, and that's how I found out what was the best EQ for
yes.
my sound. And so there's just everything.
And
It's
you know
not.
what? People love to impart their wisdom.
Yes.
People are just waiting to help. I think this community is such a just such a loving and giving community. Just ask. They can't wait to talk about their
Yes.
job. They can't wait to talk about lights. They can't wait. And the more we all know, and I know we just keep learning.
Yes.
It's not you get your first equity show and you're done learning. We just keep learning.
We keep learning.
Yeah.
We keep learning.
That's part of the fun and part of the excitement.
And I think it is incumbent upon you. You're coming into this business. This business is already hard enough. You know what I call this, Jim? I call this business a slow suicide.
Wow.
You got to understand what this business is. It's hard. It's a hard business, but when it works, there is nothing like it. There's nothing else that I would want to do. I love the stage. I love the people. I love bringing them joy. I love making them think, making them laugh, making them cry. Because when I put a show together, I give it much thought. And you just coming into the business, I want you to think this way. What can I do to be my best? Because a musician respects you when you have a little knowledge of music, when you know the keys of your songs, and you're not hemming and hawing when they say, okay, you want to do Summertime, what key do you sing it in?
Low. Oh, here's what not to say. I hear this every week. I sing this in the key that Barbara sang it in.
Oh,
well, first of all, I'm not Barbara. I don't know her keys. People say it to Billy Stritch every week.
I'm sure.
On the album. Well, we don't have those memorized. Yeah, if you're gonna, that's a really good lesson. If you're gonna do stuff like open mic nights, piano bar, whatever, where you're just walking up to a piano player and saying, hey, I got rhythm. You better know your key and you better know how to count it off, because do you do it like a ballad? There's
so many different ways you can do all these songs. Give
the guy a hint, or the girl, or they, give somebody a hint. And that's, it's hard to just do that right off the bat. But the more you get comfortable and the more you talk to your favorite musical director and say, how do I say this? Go back to the bridge or whatever it is, kind of have your shtick down. People will be so appreciative.
Jim, you just brought up a good point. Ask questions. Lord have mercy. I ask so many questions. Anything that I want to learn, even today, I will ask a million questions, because none of us, not one of us, I don't care, from the superstar down to the person just starting, no one knows everything.
Right.
So don't be afraid to ask.
It doesn't make you look less than.
No, it doesn't.
It makes you look hip enough to say, now, how do you want this? Even in an audition, like, do you have anything to tell me before I sing it? Or is this, I'm open to, suggestion. So they know you're cool to work with.
Yes.
I think an audition, let's say everybody's talented. Let's say everybody's equally talented. Who gets the role is who seems like a good hang. Or who seems like, if you're going on the road with 20 people, is this person going to be like a nightmare?
Yes.
Is this one a diva? Is this one you want to?
And they can tell that from the minute. And they can tell that from the minute you walk into the room.
Ooh, yes.
Don't think that they cannot tell that. Yes, you have to have confidence, but you can't be cocky. You have to be nice. Be careful how you speak with the accompanist.
Yeah.
All of that matters.
If you're a diva, you will know it, and people will treat you accordingly. But if you're brand new at this, it's not. It doesn't serve you.
Okay, so Jim, say someone wants to. They have an act, and say, Birdland, that sounds pretty good. They have a good name, and they want to come into the club where you are.
Mhm.
How does one get their act into your club, or do they have to have a name first? How does it work with you and Birdland?
You know, it's 100 different ways. Um, yes, of course, having a name helps. Having a lot of press behind you helps. Having a bunch of records helps. Records. How old am I? A bunch of CDs, a bunch of
I say the same thing.
whatever. Um,
Whatever.
I mean, all of that helps. But also, I don't book a lot of people that have a big resume and that have a lot of records because it's not my taste or it's not what I think will work well in the room. Um, Having a good press package. If you're not, let's say, a star, a known quantity, a real professional bio, not a resume. Resumes go to the theater. Bios come to nightclubs. Because I don't care that you've been in The King and I. That does me
Yeah,
no good. Um, a lot of people come to Cast Party, my open mic that we do
which is
every Monday
great.
for 18 years. Um, and we fall in love with them. It's like, oh my gosh. And I see the audience reaction. I've certainly booked people from that. It does come down to, do I think you can fill our room?
Well,
I
money
hate
is
to
bottom
say
line.
it. I wish it weren't that way, but it's a business. And
It's a
if I
business.
look at your Instagram and you have like 3 friends, I'm like, hmm, uh, you better be really good. Um, so of course, social media, your 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 agility at social media, how you promote yourself, because these one-nighters in nightclubs, we can't take out an ad in the New York Times for every one-nighter that
Yes.
we book. We book sometimes 6 shows a night between our 2 rooms. So you better know how to self-promote, and
But
that's
also,
social media.
also in the meantime, until you get to the point where Jim is talking about, where you get a name for yourself and you have, some followers or what have you, there are other smaller clubs where you can go to get experience. Because going into a nightclub, if you have been performing a certain way, where a lot of these teachers are telling these younger people in high school, pick a spot on the wall and focus this, and this is how you should deliver your material, and this is how you've been performing, you would want to try and get out of that habit, because it is not. That is one of my other pet peeves, and a lot of people know it. It is not fun to look at. You have to give an audience something to look at, to watch. You want to make them riveted in their seats. You want to make them not want to take their eyes off of you. So it doesn't hurt if at the beginning of your career, Jim is not going to put you right in the burden. That's fine. Go smaller places. They have smaller clubs. Do open mics. And learn what it is like to just physically look an audience in the eye, sing to them, talk to them, and see what that reaction is. Do a bunch of those, and then put a little nightclub act together. Oh, speaking of which, you have any advice for some young person wanting to put a nightclub act together?
I do. Uh, Sing everywhere. Put an act together. Listen, my first act, I think back and I think, oh, yikes, truly terrible.
Really?
Every mistake. I was very affected by Dionne Warwick.
Ah,
Which you would not expect. I sang every Dionne Warwick song. I mean,
no.
what was I thinking? Um, I had
Okay, but tell me
it,
why didn't
it
it
was
work? Why didn't it work? I mean, were you doing
because
a
I didn't know
tribute?
who I was yet. I didn't
Oh,
know who I
okay.
was yet, and that takes a minute.
Yes.
You might not know that at your you might sing, you might do everything wrong, but go to every open mic, sing at
Yes.
old folks' homes, sing any place that has a stage. Find a great piano player that you connect with. That is key.
That's key.
that you can laugh with, that you can make fun of what you're doing with, that you can just have a ball with and say, let's do a room. There's a hotel down the street. My first act was at a place in Dallas called the Non-Smokers Inn.
Oh, Lord.
So it was not glamorous. It was not anything. Yet I made every mistake.
Mm.
I had a blast. Um, I wore a tuxedo and bow tie, and I don't know
Oh,
what I was thinking. I loved it, and it just made me
do it more.
do more. And so I did more. It started getting incrementally better, and people started laughing
Uh-huh.
with me, not at me.
Yes.
Um,
Well, you're
and that's when
funny.
I thought, oh, I can be an entertainer, not just a singer. I can dance on stage and I can be funny and I can host and I can bring friends up. It started all the way back then that I would bring my talented friends up. And that's turned into what I do for a living. So
And you're brilliant. You're brilliant at it.
well, thank
You
you,
know,
but
I
miss
remember.
no opportunity. Say yes.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Get as much experience as you can. Um, I think also too when you're choosing songs for your act, um, you should love your songs, love whatever you pick, and number one, just love your voice, love who you are, and then when you're picking your materials, try to make the material find your voice inside of that material because another pet peeve of mine is when you copy exactly like the original person.
Right.
This is the
Like
way
me
they
doing
sang it.
Dionne Warwick.
Well, yeah, but you got out of that, you said. I mean, that was just maybe a beginner's mistake. But I mean, I'm known for my arrangements, but I
Yeah.
used to be managed by the owners of the Apollo Theater. And I remember Bobby Schiffman telling me over and over and over again, he said, I don't know what kind of career you're going to have, whether it's going to be in records. He said, I don't know what you're going to do. He said, but whatever you do, if you're doing covers, he said, make sure that you have your Vivian Reed stamp on it. He says, I don't care what else you think about Vivian, do not copy those people. He drilled that into me. So that's why almost every show I put together, getting material together, the joy for me is sitting down, seeing what I can do with that
Absolutely.
material. Now,
Absolutely.
having said that, you people watching, you young people watching, that does not mean that you take the composer's melody
Oh,
and reinvent it. No.
just talking about this 2 hours
Oh
ago.
my God. One of my students came in, my signature piece, God Bless the Child. Jim, I couldn't believe it. She said, I said, what are you singing today? This is when we could still come, not during COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, what are you singing today? And so she said, God Bless the Child. I said, oh, great. Jim, I did not recognize the first four bars, and then I stopped her.
Right.
I said, wha- where did you learn? You know that's not God Bless the Child. That's not the melody. I don't even recognize. Where did you learn this? And I'm not going to call the singer's name, but she learned it from a very famous singer on YouTube. I said, sweetheart, all right, My God Bless the Child is on YouTube, but there are others. Look up an older person singing God Bless the Child. And I even gave her a couple names. I said, 100% they are going to be singing the melody. That's who you got to learn songs from. You must know the melody. If you want to veer from the melody later on in the song, and that's got to
Of
be
course.
within reason, fine. But you must establish what that composer wrote. I
It's
mean,
true.
go ahead.
It's
You can speak
true.
on it because, boy, that is such a
No,
pet peeve.
oh man, I could talk about
Oh,
that for weeks. It sounds old fogey-ish, and I know it does, but learn the melody and
yes.
learn the lyric.
Yes.
Period. Then, if you want to veer off into your own cool styling, in the second verse or
In the
something.
second verse, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I mean, I don't have to like it, but I understand that people want to put their stamp on it. But don't do somebody else's stamp and learn
Yes.
how it really goes. And then you can have fun with it. But if you're singing it like Mariah Carey,
Oh
then
Lord.
I mean, then let Mariah do that. Find your own song or do a Mariah Carey song and do it your way. There's nothing wrong with that. Uh, and you know, I'm not a big riffer.
Yeah, but I mean,
I mean,
people do riff. I riff, but here again,
but you can.
Jim, but I can because it comes from a real place. But here's the point.
Yes. But
I have
everybody thinks it
seen,
comes from a real place.
I
Everybody
have,
thinks that
hmm?
it's everybody thinks it's coming from a real place because that's how they hear it. But it's such a bad idea if it's taking you away from the melody, the story, if the audience is now just listening to your riffs
Well, that's
or
that.
applauding your riffs, which makes me want to, you know, and that's a lot of TV shows, a lot of the TV shows that are
Yes.
celebrating pop singing. And I get it. I love pop music. I'm obsessed with pop music. But it, if it takes away from the great song, then why'd you choose that song? If you don't care about that song.
Okay, so I'm going to expound on that a bit. A bit. We know that embellishment is part of R&B. It is part of jazz to a point, and it is part of pop music. The mistake that happens, especially with a lot of young people, and I'm not going to call this person because he's very famous, but his career was basically ruined. And when I tell you, this man can riff like nobody's business. I went to his concert in New Jersey. I just sat back and saw him literally crucify his own show. He's an incredible pianist. He is an incredible singer who can riff, and it's all natural. It just comes like this. But you know what the mistake was? He went too far. Everything was a riff. When he would come to the end of a song, instead of just ending it, the riffing would go on and on and on again. And you're
Right.
sitting there, you're spent. You can't. And you know what? He didn't get a standing ovation at the end. They were tired of him, and it hurt his career. So
It
you
can
have
be
to know how far
exhausting.
to take it. You have to know how
That's
far to
right.
take that.
That's right. And you just have to know riffing is not as impressive as you think it is. And I know there are people out there doing the YouTube teaching the riffs
That's ridiculous. Well,
and I mean, but you know what I'm talking about. And
yeah,
it's like that's not what this is about.
no.
First of all, I don't have the facility to do it, so part of me is a little jealous that I can't just you
Not
know
everybody,
pull
because it
out a
has
riff.
to, listen, it has to come from a real place. I
Of
can
course.
tell when I hear a singer when it is homemade. I call it
Right.
homemade when they have sat home at home and they practice going from one note
Oh,
and
that's my
turning it.
pet peeve.
I can always tell that. It is okay if you cannot riff naturally. That is fine. My point, I love if someone sang a ballad all the way through without ever turning a note, and it could be a pop ballad, it could be an R&B ballad. There are ways that you can sing that ballad perfectly straight without turning one note and make an audience cry, make an audience feel. It is not always about riffing to get that song across. I call
Riffing
it riff.
doesn't touch your heart. Riffing is
No,
impressive. Like, wow, look what she did. Look what he did. Cool. But it doesn't get through. The first thing I said to you was connection. It
it's got to
doesn't
be
connect
connected.
to me.
No,
It doesn't connect. But if you phrase a certain thing a certain way, I can be a big puddle of tears.
yes.
Okay,
All
well,
in
we
how
agree
you,
on that.
yes, and how you manipulate those notes. Because there are things that you can do singing straight. I remember at an audition
I
once,
love a straight tone. Oh,
I forget what I sang, and they said, Vivian, could you sing My Funny Valentine and sing it totally straight? I said, sure, and I was able to do it. You got to be able to do this because it means the difference in you getting or not getting a show. If they ask you to do that, there was a woman, Jim, on Broadway in a very famous show who won a Tony. And basically, when she left that show, she couldn't get hired for another show because she was a riffer. It worked for that show, but
Right.
a lot of Broadway shows, they don't want that
Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
the
I
show
mean,
calls for that.
can you imagine being a composer behind the desk and somebody gets up and riffs through your song? It's like, well, how dare you? You know,
Exactly.
learn
Exactly.
it, learn it. I mean, same with cabaret, what we were saying before. Learn it note for note, and then, you know, if you want to have fun with it, I understand that, or make it your own, put your stamp on it. But you've gotta be true to the
You got
song.
to be true to the song.
Yeah.
I mean, going too far with riffing, it drives me crazy. It just drives me crazy.
And
I'm just sitting.
there's a new thing that a lot of people are doing. They're growling up into a note. It's like vocal fry into the note. I
It's
don't
like
like that.
squalling, squalling.
It works on Adele. It works on I mean, there are a couple pop singers that have become billionaires because of it. But I'm hearing people do it at cast party, and every time it happens, it like sends shivers up my spine. So any vocal fry, oh my god, like don't do that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, we think along the same lines.
we have a lot
So,
of opinions.
what'd you say?
We have a lot of opinions, people.
Yeah, but you know what? What we're saying is basically what it is, though. If you want an audience to enjoy what you're doing, don't upstage yourself by doing stuff that doesn't mean anything, that's not going anywhere, and that's going to cause your audience to get spent. They're going to be sick of you before you even start.
It's interesting that you said that means something, because that's exactly what it is. It's the vocal concept of the girl picking lint off her dress. It's taking people's mind away from what
Yeah.
you're doing there, which is storytelling.
Yes.
It's people going, wow, she can riff. That's not something that
That's
they
mm-mm.
need to be thinking. Unless you are Patti LaBelle, then maybe, because that's her stock in trade.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. I get really bored with it.
Well, I think that we have given young people and even older people watching this who just need some help. We've given you a lot to think about, and both I've done well in my career. Jim has done extremely well in his career, and these conversations I have had with people who are very successful in what they do, whether it's casting, directing, stage management, artists who have done very well. So I don't think we would have lasted this long if we didn't kind of know what we're talking about. So I would be very careful with taking workshops from people who have not had some successes and who are telling you what to do when maybe they could be giving you wrong information. Be very careful who you're taking these workshops from because they could be giving you very bad information. What do you say about that, Jim?
I do agree.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and you can say that about almost anything.
Yes.
A vocal teacher that makes
Yep.
you shriek at the top of your lungs, at the top of your range all day, and you know you're wondering why you're having vocal problems.
Problems.
A dance teacher that's abusive and making you do. I just heard about this last weekend. A dance teacher who it was a ballet class, and he would hold a lighter under the dancer's
No, to
leg.
keep their leg up?
Uh-huh. I was like, and that would be the last lighter that man would hold. If they-
Baby, you better know it. Are you are you no, you sure you're not making this up, Jim?
I am not making that up.
That's
So you know what? I don't
crazy.
care who that is. Bye-bye. Anybody that does anything that you find uncomfortable, bye-bye. Those
Yeah,
are two
say
words.
goodbye.
The two words are bye.
Yes, run, run. Even if you lose money, run.
Oh,
If a
bye.
teacher
No,
tells you, focus
that's
on a spot in front of you and that's how you should deliver your song, run. Because that is not how you deliver songs. Anything that you find a
correct.
little bit bizarre, that is not a good teacher.
No,
Run. Jim,
no.
I cannot thank you enough. This was great. Thank you so
I
much for doing
love
this.
you so much. And your students, you guys, you're so lucky to have someone like
Oh,
Vivian. I mean, have you seen her work? It's it's mind-blowing, it's chic, it's iconic, it's old school, but it's fresh and new school. It's
oh,
not, so we know some people that are old school but a little mothbally.
yeah.
Not Vivian Reed. Nay, this is as
Oh,
fresh and cool and hip as
well,
anybody out there.
Jim, thank you. Thank you so much. And guys, if you get a chance, go by Birdland, check it out, see what the shows are, and go see what Cast Party is all about. Number one, you'll learn a lot. See Jim, and oh, we got to say something about Billy Stritch.
Oh,
Oh my God. Oh, Billy Stritch is the musical director or conductor, whatever you want to say, for the Cast Party. And plus, he has been the musical director for so many great artists. I mean, you name it. I mean, because is he still with Marilyn May?
yeah. But
And Marilyn May, and he was with Liza Minnelli
Liza for 30 years.
30
Tony
years.
Bennett recently, or a couple of years ago, he was with Tony. Um, and I'm lucky enough to have him, you know,
And the two
right
of you
over.
together, a hoot.
Well, we're best friends. We've been
Oh my
best friends for
God.
40 years. So he's funny. That's what I mean. Find somebody that you get and that gets you. And that's the greatest gift. And hold on. Hold on
Yes.
to them and hold on onto the ride because you're going to have a ball. You
Well,
need a
la-
partner.
well, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from one of the best. He
Oh,
is all that and some chocolate cake, as you've heard me say. All that and some chocolate cake. Anyway,
I'll take it.
thank you so much for checking out this video. And don't forget, keep checking back for new videos. It's all about show business. And don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like. And I'll see you the next time. Bye. Wave now. Wave, Jim. Bye.